Welcome to our coverage of ASUG Annual Conference and Sapphire Now 2014. We're in the ASUG News Studio, sponsored by NTT Data, and we're going to spend some time talking about SAP mobility strategy, specifically mobile SRM. I'm joined today with some great guests. I have Fred Wick from CenterPoint Energy and Russell Boyer from Utegration. And what's so exciting about our interview today is that our conversation changed a little bit based on some news that we heard yesterday. So now Fiore and Personas are going to be included in the cost of regular licensing. So this, I understand, changes your project plans a little bit, Fred.
It's crazy, Courtney. I mean, really, it's when we first looked at this project, I struggled to not go with Fiore because we're an SAP shop, and to build our own app. And personally, I didn't think it made a lot of sense or business sense, but the costs were outrageous. The license fees, and I couldn't get the support for some of the other apps. The sell was, at the time last year, we have 60 apps and we're coming out with more and more, and now I think they're close to 300. But the usage of those and the interest was limited for what I needed to gather. So going and creating our own app made the most business sense, and that was the best business case at the time, but now this throws a wrench in it. So we're not live yet, so literally we're going to have to reevaluate, and we may take a shift.
That is so interesting, and Flux projects at the show, right? That's great. What do you think, Russell? You're going to be able to support this as a partner, of course.
Well, as soon as Bill made the announcement, I already talked with my technical team to start evaluating what it would take to migrate to Fiore. So we're already coming back with specific items for consideration for CenterPoint.
And you're going to do that really cheap, correct?
Correct.
All right, just checking.
For free, in fact. He's going to follow Bill's lead.
Exactly.
Fiore's free. It should be free everywhere.
Well, and I don't know, is that included in Bill's offer?
I think so. Maybe he could come on stage and tell us, huh?
Yeah.
But let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about the use case that you were going to do with, a custom app.
Well, this use case has actually been the easiest one that I've ever had to go through. The demand from our users for an approval application was huge. Our management teams are almost always mobile, in meetings, traveling, and the constant pressure we had, well, they're away from their computer, we need something for them to approve this. We can't have our shopping carts, our requisitions, our contracts held up because our managers aren't at a computer. And so this was a slam dunk as far as getting it done. And we're really excited to actually get this up and operational.
Oh, it's so exciting, and that's really what Fiore was built for, right? These one-click processes that people need to do on the road and whatnot. Talk to me, Russell, a little bit about this business-to-employee space, and what are the trends? This is kind of what we're building off here, right, with this app.
Well, there's a couple of different trends going on. One is the bring your own device, okay? So if you think about it, a lot of these managers already have their mobile device, and now as enterprises want to deploy business applications on this device, there's a lot of different considerations that you have to look into. One is security, of course, making sure that you can actually have a business application on someone's personal device. So we spend a lot of time in that area. The other is, of course, on the organizational side is around user adoption. Making sure that you put together something that's easy, that's simple, and that can be consumed by any manager without any training or without any effort.
The qualification was if I could use it, anybody could use it.
How do you design with the user in mind? So you said that your users were clamoring for this application, and one of the things we're hearing is that even though you're building these applications for users, they might not necessarily use them, even though they're on mobile devices and one click.
That's true. Well, we think we know what the user wants from their experience. When they're approving a shopping cart, we hear a lot of complaints today about, well, we want this up front, we want to be able to see this, we want to know that. So we had to work in a clear, concise way where this could roll out. They could easily have access to the data that they wanted to see. It would be obvious the steps that they would have to take in the process. With SRM, there are always those questions on usability. As much as it is prettied up, there's still usability issues, and there could be none with this device. It had to be that anybody could pick it up and understand what the process is to walk through.
And you're going to deploy it on iOS or Android, or what's the plan?
Both of those.
Both,
so we
okay.
first started with iOS and with Android. Actually, CenterPoint is also a BlackBerry user, so we actually did investigate that as an option, but what we found out is in a lot of the corporate environments that's starting to be phased out.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. You're not alone. There's a lot of SAP users that are still heavy BlackBerry shops. So, but what do you find with talking to your other clients? You know, is the Fiore application? The Fiore announcement yesterday. Will that really be a game changer? You think in terms of mobile adoption?
Absolutely. I mean, we have some smaller clients that actually were interested in Fiore, but the obstacle was the license. And the price. So if you have a very small company that doesn't have that many users, I think that they'll actually be more interested in adopting it. And they'll get the productivity gain that a large company will also get.
It's really great to see, because in a story like that where the users were clamoring for it so much and you were going to have to build something, and now it's going to be out of the box for you, which is really great.
Well, it's never out of the box.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
it's never
That's
out
what
of
you
the
need
box.
him for.
That's what I need him for. Well, with any company, we make changes in adoptions, and our processes aren't the same. They're not out of the box, and we have special workflows and things to consider. So no matter what route we go, Russell had to take that into consideration with this app. And if we do move to Fiore, part of the key questions are, how much of those changes can we make in Fiore? So those are all things now that we have to sit down and reevaluate.
Right, we're having to reconsider not only the UI, but also the integration that we've already done with the customizations that this particular client has.
To sort of close out here, everybody's thinking about doing a mobility project now. What would each of you say is the most important thing to remember when starting one of these?
From our point, our project slowed because we didn't run all the traps. So we made mistakes where we hadn't firmed up what version we had to be on, what support packs we had to be on. We left key questions unanswered as far as how do we deal with security on personal devices. Those are all things that people need to investigate, because not everybody has a corporate phone, and we all have our personal phones. And we didn't run those traps right away. We were so headstrong into getting started that those were some questions that went unanswered.
Right, and I think the other key is getting the users involved in the process, because as you hit those obstacles, if they're involved in the process, it helps, to create that demand, especially when you're trying to roll out one of the first enterprise mobile applications at a client.
Well, it's a very exciting project, and it sounds like the users are really going to benefit, and I'm really happy that you were able to leverage some of these things that were announced yesterday, so that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me in the studio.
Well, thanks, Courtney.
And thank Bill.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Thank you for watching our coverage of ASUG Annual Conference in Sapphire Now. You can catch more of our stories on asugnews.com.